the Trump administration's executive order banning central bank digital currencies in the U.S. That was signed several months ago. And then the Genius Act was signed more recently. And you look in the fine print of both of those, and you'll find the crypto-backed stable coin, the idea electronic, backed by the dollar, and by the dollar only by the Treasury, so creating synthetic demand for the Treasury and captive market. But basically having all of the distasteful or toxic characteristics that people were worried about from CBDCs, such as being able to monitor and track every single transaction that you do, being able to identify you and filter you and block you or lock you out if you don't play by the rules, and being unable to withdraw any funds, as we now can still with cash, and do things, have something outside the system, such as gold and silver or cash. So that's the first thing. Is any updates from you on this, the progression, the unveiling that we keep seeing a little bit more of the truth come out about what this whole stablecoin act is actually, who it's working for and who it's working against, before we ask about perhaps the implications on gold and silver from there?
Well, I mean, I think it's all intertwined, because Bo Hines, who was Trump's crypto advisor until August, is now the CEO of USA Tether, which is already Genius compliant and will get the lion's share of all the stablecoin issuance backed by U.S. Treasuries, which, to your point, gives synthetic demand for the Treasury. But the interest on those coins is not transferable. If you buy something and the stablecoin is created, backed by Treasuries, you spend it, the stablecoin gets burned, it's done. But the interest that was generated on the Treasury is not transferable to the holder of the stablecoin. It has to be kept by Tether, who then is buying gold. They have almost $13 billion in gold. They were just at the Beaver Creek Mining Summit. So there's a lot to say about the stablecoin in terms of the ultimate benefit to the gold holder, which devalues the dollar, which we've talked about. That's what they want. The debasement trade. You haven't seen mainstream talk about the debasement trade. Makes paying off your debt easier. And we've talked about how they could develop a roadmap to bring back manufacturing. That is a key part of it. The continuation synthetically of demand for the Treasury market, which has lost demand and is continuing to lose demand, but that synthetic demand will then be used to take the revenue from it, drive from it, not give it back to us who hold the stablecoins, but buy gold with it. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a wink, wink, nod, nod between Trump and Tether. You're going to give us that metal. You're going to sign a contract discreetly, maybe even through this exchange stabilization fund, and you're going to sell it to us at some point. Maybe. But anyways, I digress. When you talk about what it could have in store for you, yeah, they have AML, KYC, and KYT compliant technology built into the software. Know your client, KYC, AML, anti-money laundering, KYT, know your transaction. They will know who you are, where your money came from, and what you're buying. And you're right, it is a central bank digital currency masquerading as a stablecoin. The big difference is that instead of, it's the CB, there's no central bank. These are independent third-party companies. But isn't it interesting that Trump's crypto czar is now the CEO of this new division that is going to issue the USA Tether tokens? Interesting how that plays out. It's just as interesting as Goldman Sachs saying if the Fed loses independence and the market gets whiff of it, gold will go to the moon. Well, who just took the vacated spot? Stephen Mirren, the head or the gentleman who wrote the Mar-a-Lago Accord, Trump's advisor. These things are not by mistake or by accident, they're by design. And so, to your point, yes, it will have, I believe, all of the characteristics of a central bank digital currency only issued by a third-party entity, that the feds will control the on-ramp and the off-ramp. And so it's the same thing in essence. And I think people should be concerned about it for sure, but it is here and it is going to happen. It is the only way that they will achieve, I think, what they're trying to do through devaluation of the dollar and keeping interest rates low synthetically on both cases. And that devaluation of the dollar will be through the continued increasing purchases of gold and silver with the proceeds behind those stablecoins that are backed by treasuries. The interest on those treasuries not transferable. It's a huge deal. But to the average person, yeah, I think you are just as surveilled as if it were a central bank digital currency for sure, 100%.
The other aspect of that is not being able to opt out, not being able to go up to the bank when there's mass adoption of this by the public who think, oh, gee, it sounds great. It's all about safety and security and keeping the bad guys.
And quick, because remember, like if you were to go buy a new Lexus at the Lexus dealership and they're like, okay, well, we can't take a check from you, Dunnigan. I'm sure you're an honest guy. We need a wire. Okay, I'll be right back. I'll run to Wells Fargo. Well, now you can just go, boom, just like Zelle. It's in your account. Thank you. Let's go. Can I have my car? It's expediency also, and it's, convenience. That's what they'll tell you. It's far more convenient. One last point. Sorry to interrupt you. There was a poll taken I read, and I read it with great disdain, that 60+% of Gen Zers say cash is cringe. No one takes cash. It's cringe, whatever the hell cringe means. But I'll tell you that we are moving to in that vicinity, that cashless society that we talk about, that always people laughed at. Yeah, that'll never happen. It is happening ever so slowly. And this will be another example of it. So you're right. I don't think there will be any opt-outing, and cash will be something that will go ultimately the way of the dodo bird, and it will just be gone, but not there yet.
What about any implications of the centralized control? So this is masquerading as a non-government program because it's going to be these stable coins are going to be offered by private companies or public companies. But however, they're going to all be following all these rules and enforcement and screening and every transaction and everything, every move you make, and whether you have access or not, whether it's withdrawn, if you say and do the wrong thing, associate with the wrong person. We've heard that before. What about the fact that all the people who are participating in this, if there's mass adoption, it sounds like that's the way that things are going, don't have a way of withdrawing something that they can actually hold in their hand. And as you say, there's no opting out. But gold and silver have provided that forever, since the beginning of time, in every country, in every millennium, in every regime. So what, do we know anything about, or any likely indicators of how this might impact the ability to transact using precious metals? As you were well connected with the people who were talking in, for example, Florida, about their electronic metals transacting rules that they just put in place, that seems to be a wave that's happening across multiple states right now. So where does this leave? Because there seems to be a disconnect here between this idea of a system that just gets people to be captive owners of U.S. debt and calling that new and newfangled because it's fast and expedient and not cringy. And then on the other hand, people who own traditional assets like gold and silver, or who have been accustomed to thinking that paper cash at least gives them some privacy. How do you see gold and silver cohabiting in this future world with stablecoins?
Same way that, similar. In Texas, they're kind of leading the charge on this. The idea is you take your American-made coins, you deliver them to a state-run depository. I don't know if it'll be the Texas Bullion Depository or someone different, but in essence, they will give you like a credit card or an app on your phone that you can then make purchases using it in a digital framework. I think the idea of going to a shopkeeper with Gold Eagle is probably not going to happen, but using those coins, which most of the laws specifically say American made, not all of them, but a lot of them do, held in a vault that you can then keep your purchasing power safe from the continued fall of the dollar in terms of its valuation, down 100% against silver this year, pretty damn well near it after today's run, and 70 plus on gold. Forget about the dollar index that says it's only down 7 or 8%. It's down 15 times that just about in terms of silver, and 12, 13 times in gold. And so you end up with a situation where you can use money, but it is done in a digital ecosystem, would be my guess. And maybe it's something like we saw recently in Italy where, desperate governments do desperate things. They're saying, tax now or later, any gold, jewelry or coins or bars that people have not declared in terms of, or there's, that no one knows about it, you can tell the Italian government now and pay your taxes now. Who knows what they do? Desperate governments do desperate things. I just think that you have to prepare the best you can, hope for the best, and be prepared for it not to work out that way. And what other choice do we have? I'd rather have options when others have none. But yeah, it is something certainly worth considering. And at that point, the United States loses all credibility as far as I'm concerned, if that ever happened. But look, they are forcing us into this digital surveillance state. Starts with the digital ID. Well, Trump already said that's what he wants, or passed that law for voting integrity, right? What is it? And again, I always butcher these, but Ben Franklin said something to the extent when you give up a freedom in the name of safety, you never get it back, right? Well, that's the freedom we're giving up because of the election integrity. You have to have a digital ID. That's the foray into the surveillance state. The next is the money. No, it's not a central bank digital currency. It's run by third-party entities. Oh, well, then we're safe, right? And you can see how we are quietly dropping the frog into the pot of lukewarm water and slowly turning up the heat. What it appears to me is that is where we are going, and you do the best you can to stay out of it. And everything that you're doing is legal. You got that on your side, and you hope for the best. It's a very small percentage of people that will have that ability. Maybe it's not worth it to rattle the bushes because most people wouldn't know a gold coin if it fell on their big toe.